Matt, Matt.
I'm here.
Oh, gotcha. I
Okay.
didn't know if you could hear me or not.
Yeah, this has been one of those, the government's trying to keep us from talking about lumber today, days.
What? Mystery. Let me just try to uh, refresh my screen here because my stuff isn't showing up in my chat here.
I need to send my links out too because I just got them and they keep on screwing up.
All right, go ahead and send them out, Matt. I'll wait for you.
I'm getting messages from people that say they don't have the links yet, so it's my bad.
We'll wait for it. I was thinking today, Matt, one reason why everybody should listen to us when we talk is because we don't have an axe to grind long or short, right? So,
Yeah, that's true.
when people sit there and talk about the lumber market going up or down, it's generally because they got a position on, right?
Position talking, baby. Everybody does it.
That doesn't happen in our industry, does it?
You don't think?
When people call me, and they do call me at night when I'm walking home and said, "Why did you and Matt talk about that today? I think you guys are full of shinola, and this is why." And it always comes down to the same thing.
Yeah, because I'm long.
Yeah, because I'm long. And I'm like,
That's
well,
crazy.
yeah, yep.
Just
We'll
about
wait
there.
for. Yeah, no worries. Do what you got to do. We got 15 people on LinkedIn, 16. We'll wait for you. When you send it out, there usually jumps to 100. I'm just in the process of editing one of the reports I'm writing for a freelance writer on housing right now. So this will actually be a timely conversation.
All right, 1,382 people. Let's see if half of them will show up.
All right, so you sent it.
Yeah.
Where are you
It's
at?
gonna
Where are you in the same house that you normally rent on vacation?
No, actually, we're in Rosemary Beach, Florida, which is the Panhandle near Destin, between Panama City and Destin, and it's a Airbnb thing that's it's new.
You're in the Riviera, man.
I tell you what, I I'm going to be out of pocket, like doing remote work for 10 weeks this year away from home.
That's
I thought you were shaving last week.
no. I'm letting it grow like I'm in the hockey playoffs.
That's a good idea. You got to knock a tooth out.
Exactly.
You
No.
need to black a tooth out. So you look, you're really.
So I'm going to put up here while people are streaming on, and I'd like our users and our people that watch. Matt and I had a conversation before this. I'll put it up in the comments. What are you hearing from your home builders on cancellations or plus and minus changes of activity through the end of the year? So let me just put this up, see if I can make this work. Nope, that didn't work. And the reason we wanted you to talk about this during our commentary is I've talked to some home builders and I've talked to a few people. And what we're seeing are some interesting things. We're just trying to line them up with what everybody else is seeing.
Yeah, let's talk our position and see if we can weight the conversation.
Yeah.
Because what our conversation started as was we heard from several lumber dealers that they got a pretty significant number of cancellations from major home builders. They're going to finish what they've got on the ground started, but they're not going to start anything in Q4, which not implied, but it meant that these guys got cancellations for lumber packages that they recently bought, expecting to ship them in October and later. So the implication is the market could be potentially overbought.
So we got some people. We got about 30 people on right now, more on YouTube right now. So we'll start. This is Lunch with Lumbermen, Matt Lehman, Lehman's Lumber Guide, Ashley Buckholt from Materials Exchange. Uh, what I wanted to talk, and Matt and I were talking about this, so I sent some questions to some home builders that I know, and I asked them, "Are you noticing anything outside the ordinary on cancellations across the U.S.?" And somebody put a smiley face with maybe, one of them, and
So what are you trying to hold back and not tell us, make us guess? I'm
and the
guessing you
other
are.
one said, "I haven't heard of an alarming cancellation on the 6 months of order file we have on the books. I am hearing new business generation is a potential to be off like 40%."
That's pretty substantial.
So that's that's what I'm hearing. If anybody else could actually comment on that from the home builders you do business with, or if you are a home builder, tell us what you're hearing on cancellations, and also on activity, plus or minus, right, through the end of the year.
Yeah, just to clarify, I was talking with Ash. My thoughts are you were talking about there was, well, let me back up. My comment was there's no tracking of cancellations from home builders, and it's kind of a lagging thing they make on their quarter, like you were saying, they make on their quarterly call the admissions of what they got the last quarter, but they don't really talk about what they're expecting because it's going to be, if it's going to be a lot of cancellations, they're not going to say so. They're
Yeah,
going
I
to
mean,
withhold because it's just a guess.
and I look at some Trulia and Redfin, I believe it is, information, but that's tough to really. Everything's state by state, and it all depends upon what the states give, what the home builders give. So I guess this news article I'm writing, the person wants me to bookmark the end where I think housing and lumber's going. I don't know. All I know is what I thought about it walking in, Matt. I can only tell you what I see. What I see is the froth, the the um the fear, the people that just didn't think that they could buy a house, the $60,000 Bitcoin where it was going to $500,000 mentality, that's subsided a little bit.
Yeah.
Why is that? Interest rates, uncertainty in the economy. Matt Beamer and Greg and I were talking yesterday. Greg was calling for it potentially. The fear is gone and all that. I don't know, right? I mean, I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot of things at play that I don't normally see, right? Some of those being, you and I talked about this, 2008 to 2011, these large investors weren't in the market. And kind of my theory to that is we have such a fragmented pen and paper call around market in not only lumber, but also in home building, right?
Yeah.
We very much build and market homes no different than we did in the 1960s or 70s. Are there some nuances? Certainly. Big money found that and figured out after we've extracted everything out of every other industry, pharmaceutical, energy, tech, there's this big industry sitting over here called home building, and let's go extract whatever we can out of that. And they started buying homes, right? It's a smaller amount right now, but it's building from what I can hear, Matt.
Yeah, and that here's the thing that I was just after we talked before. Here's what we don't know: the the investment community is certainly growing, and I think the number has gone from like 5% to 10% or something like that, whatever the number is. But the entire economy is putting so much emphasis on the fact that that group is going to bail out housing, and it's going to miraculously save the economy and justify 6% interest rates, and we're all going to be fine because investors are going to get swooping up all these homes. But the meat, the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of the housing industry is the new home buyer. And if you take the new home buyer out and assume that they're going to be replaced by investment buyers, I think that's a false hope kind of thing, because I don't think it's the new home buyers more than 10% of the market. And if those guys are gone, if they can't afford to buy a house and make a mortgage payment of $2,700 or $3,000 a month, they're certainly not going to pay that much for rent. So
let's say the new home buyers are being replaced by bots. Basically, they're getting replaced by big companies coming in and with no interest of raising a family there, putting their roots down there. They're betting on somebody coming in willing to pay more rent and just treat this as a widget that they're buying. Right? They're treating it as an acre of land that they can farm.
to me, this is exactly the same thing as I think that the housing industry is telegraphing us. It's giving us forewarning of what to expect in Q4, just like they did at the beginning of the year where they said they're going to spend the first 3 or 4 months of the year completing houses, and then they were going to spend the rest of the year, starting houses, and then spend the last 2/3 of the year completing houses. And that's exactly what they've done. And they're saying right now, we're going to have less demand for lumber in Q4 because we're going to start even less than we thought we did. Even though the investment community is helping out, we don't expect that that's going to be enough to justify starting what we were starting. So I think the housing industry is generously forecasting to us and telling us that there's going to be less demand for lumber. And I think that as that starts to continue through the pipeline, what that's going to mean for the lumber market is there's going to be almost a panic liquidation of lumber inventory between now and the end of August as people start thinking ahead about, well, shoot, Q4, we're going to have nothing. So let's run out of lumber. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the lumber market's going to go down just because of all the negative housing information. The lumber market tends to get underbought, anticipating what's going to happen. We've got a lot of new production coming online. We've got a lot of mills talking about reducing production. The whole thing is a balance between supply and demand. It doesn't really, it's got a little to do with housing, obviously, but the true measure of what makes the market go up and down is how much is getting made and how much of what is getting made is getting sold every day.
No doubt. So one of your subscribers, I think, is it John Breckenridge, maybe?
Yep.
He said,
the builder.
Yeah, good, John. Thank you for the feedback, and we need more feedback from people in this town hall that we're holding. So new home sales are down in the last 5 months, a total of 7 homes sold. So percentage-wise, John, if you get a chance, if you could tell us what that is and maybe what you see on the forecast. Richard Kavnar, does that sound correct?
Yeah.
Richard Kavnar, DFW multifamily continues hot. Yeah, multifamily is definitely taking over and percentage-wise moving, in front of the new homes or single-family homes. They just signed two contracts for a total of 476 units yesterday. More in the works for starts this year. Pricing is definitely a challenge, but developers finding a way. We do know of a couple of projects that are at risk due to cost, but they were over-designed Cadillac projects. Would be challenging to pencil in any environment. Yeah, Richard, great feedback. Our multifamily continues to kind of plod along, and it makes sense, right? Because of the rent, right?
Right.
Richard Kavnar, DFW, Dallas Fort Worth, Buzz, I believe is what he means on that one, DFW. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd be interested too, Richard. Is that what's the plan for getting that lumber bought? Because I'm assuming that's $10 million or so in a lumber framing package for two contracts like that. Is that lumber? Is that project been bought? Since you've got it yesterday, are you in the process of buying it, or what's your intentions? And if you got two projects, when are they going to start? Are they 6 months away? So that's usually it's kind of a down the road kind of thing. It's not going to be right.
Well,
right
Matt, one of the questions maybe to Richard, because I saw this 2 months ago when lumber started selling off. The multi people I know, especially in the Southeast, already started buying on the way down, and they built up inventory for 3 or 4 months, right, through the end of the summer, and put it into reloads. They actually have it. It's sitting physically on the ground at some of the people I know that, like we say, everything that's sold is bought, that went into, I always say non-traditional because over 2 years ago, that never used to happen. But, people storing in, a shed that their buddy has off of a rail line or an industrial facility that they're not using anymore really went up in the last 2 years, right?
Right.
Richard said we're buying it immediately. We see the next 4 weeks is the best time to buy.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and Matt, let's go back to what you were saying for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I asked you this morning. I said, "Hey, Matt, the market has been moving in 2 weeks," and you basically said, "Yeah, it's because it's the summer buy, right?"
Yeah, it's a summer bump. It's like it was vacation times and meal downtime, and also prices are low enough. If you've sold anything in the last month or two and you've been waiting to buy it, there's no reason to wait for lower prices. Now, I think we're going to get lower prices, but why just screw around with delivery, especially if you talk about like Richard's talking about going to be by. We see the next 4 weeks the best time to buy. It is going to be the best time to buy. Like I remember Matt Beamer said something 2 weeks ago, and Greg, when you're talking about the amount of inventory they have in their reloads or their in warehouses, and it seemed like they said they were down to like levels of 40%. So the pipeline is not jammed full of lumber. It's basically full for what people need between now and the beginning of September or into September, but the market is certainly not bought for all it needs between now and the end of the year. So my expectation are we're going to see some downdraft in prices as people almost kind of, like I said before, panically liquidate, and the market's going to be underbought. We're going to roll into the fall with low expectations of housing and lumber demand, but even lower on-hand inventories in the field.
So I'd just like to make a note to my good friend in Brazil, who sent me a note last week and says that Matt never tells people when to buy, and it's always depressing because he's always telling people not to buy. That is not the case all the time.
That's not really true. Because
I agree.
we talked, that's if you follow along, there's about 7 or 8 times in the market when the FTP suggests either a buy or sell, and we specifically in March of this year we talked about the market making an early turn in March rather than May and liquidating that inventory. And if your buddy in Brazil wants to know when to buy, I'm gonna tell you right now the best time to buy is going to be the second or third week of August to cover through the end of September or middle of October. There's a specific.
Gotcha. Now, Matt, you didn't have a new report this week. Did you want to look at the one from last week or not? Or you want to just blow through that and keep talking about what we're chatting about?
Well, we can keep doing what we're doing. Basically we talked about on the chart's going to show is the summer bump, and what I talked about was in the discussions was that you can call it a recession if you want to, but I think what we're really in is a repossession, economically a repossession of the recent wage increases. That's just raising the cost of living. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but everywhere I go, prices are doubled. I mean, we've been on vacation this week, and I can't get out of lunch for less than $60. Going out to eat over $100 for dinner, and every place is packed full of people buying and spending, and they're still. It's like they're making this new. They got this extra money to spend, and everything's costing more, but they're still dining out, spending, and unless I'm just hitting these hot spots where everybody is, but it just seems like no matter where you go in the country or the city or wherever it is, the roads are packed, the airports are packed. It just doesn't seem like, I don't see the slowing when the government says spending is slowing. I don't see it when I'm out in the retail community.
So, Matt, I'll give you you want to hear my messed up theory to that?
Yeah.
I've got a buddy that has a bar restaurant that he opened up, and it's large, right? It has a large capacity, can hold 500 people. Can't get enough people to work, right? Cannot get enough people to work. He was paying a bartender / manager a lot of money, from my opinion. I didn't make that much money in the first 15 years of my life to pour drinks. Guy only wanted to work 30 hours a week and wanted more money, right? So and I noticed that at a lot of companies, and even people that I deal with, they don't want to come to an office. They want to work when they want to work and travel when they want to travel. And it's a new generation, right, doing this. And so there's a lot of money being spent. And I think we're almost on the European model where we want to work like half the time and make as much money type of thing. So everybody's out partying and spending their money.
Yeah. Still. And we see a lot of data about savings last year were like an all-time high.
And now
I think that's just because we had so much government stimulus. People got the money they weren't expecting and just hadn't had a chance to spend it yet. but we're not a saving social society. We're a spending society, and we want to, if you got it, spend it, and we want it now. And nobody's. I don't think there's people don't plan for the future. Like, I don't know if they ever did plan for the future, but unless you're just illuminously wealthy, you're not going to spend your life in retirement with a golf course and a pool and 3 squares a day and playing shuffleboard. You're going to be sitting on the back porch of a dirt road or a rest home that's government supported.
Yeah, well, never in my life with all this technology have I found it so hard to communicate with people to get jobs done. Right?
I know it's still impossible when you trying to find a plumber or electrician. The funny thing is you call around and you get 5 no's. I can't do it. Then you got a guy says, yeah, I can be there in an hour.
Yeah.
If you just keep looking, you find the one that's willing to work or ready to work, but it is more difficult to get things done. But I'm seeing more and more expansions of restaurants and like new construction of retail kind of things. And I saw this week there's Canfor's expanding $25 million at one of its South Carolina sawmills, and Roseburg's building a new mill up in North Carolina, and they're the largest landowner in that county of timberland. And I was talking to somebody this week. We're talking about, what's the incentive for why are the Canadian mills coming to the South? And you think about it, those guys struggle with they all the time struggle with the timber prices, stumpage prices. They fight with the U.S. about stumpage prices because it's subsidized by the Crown. But if you think about it, I'm going to lay it off on one person. The Queen owns all that land, and that's why they call it the Crown, I guess. But they're not going to. Canada's not going to give that land, or the Great Britain's not going to give that land to the sawmills. Gives them a chance to own the land. 80% of the timberland in the South is owned by private landowners. So Canadian mills could come to the South and conceivably buy up and own all the timberland they need to run their own sawmills. They don't have to be dependent on the government to tell them how much they can get and what they got to pay for it. They can buy it and own it and be in control of their own destiny. So, I mean, where do you want to be in business? Maybe you're a Canadian company, but you think about apples to apples. It's better for them to be in business in the U.S. than it is in Canada. So, it seems like every board foot they lose in production in Canada, they gain 2 in the U.S.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And really, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a lot of Canadians getting mills down here. The other interesting news we saw that yesterday or to this morning, Resolute Forest Products is now got into agreement to, it sounds like, sell to one of the large pulp and paper producers. And I don't know how that's going to absorb the lumber side, but I think they were one of the largest producers of lumber east of the Mississippi River, or east. I shouldn't say that, in one of the eastern provinces of Canada. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so that kind of implies that they want to be out of the paper business, and they're willing to sell their lumber mill to go along with it, I guess, to liquidate the whole.
Yeah, generally the pulp and paper business is such a large percentage relative to lumber. It's kind of it's interesting. So what do you got going on the rest of the week on vacation there, Matt? What you got the report coming out on Friday?
Yeah, we're going to do the big report over the weekend and just kind of get caught up. They're just the markets. That just as we thought about for the summer bump, it's lost some steam this week. It's not as much follow through, but all the reasons for the market to continue to weaken through August are coming back into play. It's less demand, hotter than a mother out there everywhere you go, and we've had there's storms popping up. They're disrupting things, and just all the summer problems that we have. But I think the biggest thing going forward is going to be. Is just the uncertainty, the fear about what demand is going to be in September and going forward, and the inclination is going to be to have less lumber, and I wholly advocate that over the next 6 weeks anyway. But so what I'm going to do is lay around the pool and drink margaritas while I think about what to write.
What's your tequila of choice?
Luna Azul, usually. It's a white one. I've had discovered it in beach a couple of years ago, but I'm not real picky because whatever you put with tequila makes it taste delicious anyway.
That's true. That's very true. Well, look at also I wanted to ask you, how are your how's everything going with Tim? We wanted to get Tim on today, which would be because Tim's really got some good insight into some of the questions that we asked.
Yeah, I asked him last week what do you want to talk about. He had four completely unrelated topics to pick from, and they were all very interesting. So I put a call into Tim this morning, and Tim Sims, for you guys who don't know what we're talking about, but he's going to do some housing analysis for us in Layman's Lumber Guide. And so if you guys are looking for some insight into the housing market for your local business or your long-term planning, Tim's going to be a great guy to have on. So he'll have another column in this weekend, I believe. But I guess in Mexico, it might be 4:00 in the morning whenever you call. So I'm not sure what his availability is.
How is your group of scouts going out and getting information and bringing it back to you? And
Good. I've got probably a good half a dozen people that are kind of reporting back. And we've got about 180, 190 new subscribers to the free service. I'd encourage you all to just look at laymansguide.com. There's a tab for scouting report free to get that for free. If you're a subscriber, you don't need to get it. It's the same as in one of the pages of the briefing. But if you're looking for some supplemental market information, lumber price information, I invite you to take advantage of that. And Ash and I are talking pretty frequently. So it's a materials exchange is a contributor to that as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll get real again. If you want to sign up with Layman's Guide, you would go to Matt's email. We'll throw his information up here real quick. Matt,
and for your buddy in Brazil, if you want to just sometimes it does seem like I talk more about the downside of the market than the upside of the market because there's so much more rash and harsh. But the big buy recommendations only come. My biggest buy recommendation usually comes in October, and that's that'll. So if you want to get the 2-month trials, you got to hook yourself up, see what's going on. We'll be talking about that through September. So now's a good time to probably get on board with that if you haven't done that before.
That's great. And I'll put a little plug in for MX Lumber Materials Exchange, where we're the only digital exchange matching buyers and sellers. That's mxlumber.com. Come to mxlumber.com, as you can see down in the corner there. Register, and we'll get you on buying and selling lumber. So
two good choices to improve your lumber business.
Exactly. All right, Matt, I'll let you back to vacation. I'll look forward to talking to you before the end of the week.
Thank you guys for coming. Have a great day. Thanks, Ash.
You bet. Thanks, Matt.